What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and we are back with Legion Season 2, Episode 4, Chapter 12. Always found the titles to be very off putting in doing these. But yeah, so returning to the show, very excited to get back into it, kind of return to the world of insanity, I would say. And what better way to start than by kicking it off with watching Sid seeing her childbirth happen. As soon as that started happening, she started like crawling down the igloo, and like I started to hear the beeping noises, and I heard push. I'm like, oh god, are we really starting this way? And sure enough, we were. So overall, I mean, this episode was interesting. It kept me intrigued throughout. As far as the resolution, though, I still am a little confused because I had to go back and watch some of my reviews of the past episodes just to find out what did I forget, what's going on right now. And there's a lot of stuff that probably I might be forgetting. But I do remember that a lot of these people were trapped in like a mind maze where essentially David had to find their core desire and talk to them about it, and that's kind of how he was able to get them out of their mind maze. So here, that's kind of what I was thinking, but in my mind, I'm thinking, well, maybe it's going to be different for her because he's so close to her, he thinks he knows her, when in fact, there's actually this part of herself maybe that she's been hiding, and he has to find that out about her. So, he has a few guesses, and she keeps telling him he's wrong. I'm thinking, okay, so what could it be? But at one point, he sort of realizes, okay, so this isn't the mind maze. And we even see, they cut to the outside of it, and we see that they're checking up on David and Sid, and they find out that apparently, oh no, we're good. Like this isn't what was going on with the other people, because as soon as the monk died, apparently all the people that were dealing with that plague mind thing that was making them chatter their teeth, apparently they're all good now, and even Carrie is back to being okay. Um, so it was kind of this isn't a mind maze then, so what is it? And ultimately, by the end of it, not entirely sure. Like, Sid keeps showing him more and more of her life, and he keeps seeing more and more glimpses of what's going on. And it finally comes to a moment where we see she decides. I don't know exactly when this happened because we see she's at the club with all of these people, and she's dancing in the middle of a pit, a mosh pit basically. And then all of a sudden she disappears, and then David is like looking around frantically, and then suddenly we see that she's back at home in bed, and then she goes downstairs, touches her mother to switch places with her, and then goes into the shower with her mother's boyfriend at the time. And ultimately, what this leads to is, they start doing it in the shower, and then they switch places. And then her mother wakes up on the couch and sees that he was in the shower with her daughter, and that leads to this misunderstanding. And I'm kind of like, okay, so did she really just do that to experience that with her mom's boyfriend, or did she do this because she knew she would switch places and would get her mom's boyfriend out and she didn't really like him? Like, I don't know, it was kind of vague. And then suddenly David says he understands, and he starts talking about, it's not about you being alone or wanting to be in love, it's about the pain that you went through and how it made you stronger. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see that, but what does that have to do with what's going on? And she starts talking about how there's a war coming, and the lovers are not going to survive, but the fighters will. And she's like, we have to fight to save love. And I don't know, it was a little out there. Like, I don't really understand fully what they're trying to say in all this. I don't really understand why they were trapped in there to begin with. If it wasn't a mind maze, was it just Sid didn't want to come out of the maze even though the maze was gone? She created her own mind maze. I hope we get a little clarification on this, because I understand, like, there's certain things you want to keep kind of vague. There's certain things you want to let the audience figure out, but there's a lot of this that I just don't get. um, so like there were several moments when I'm kind of thinking I understand what's going on. With the little girls picking on her, and then that one guy that was trying to like force himself on her, and then she kisses him to switch places, and then bashes the girls that were laughing at her, and then gets him sent to the principal's office because that's what she did as him for a second. And so like I was starting to get this idea of maybe she just wants to be left alone. Like she's had enough of people. And then all of a sudden like it started to change, and then we had the one couple that she kept seeing in the museum. I don't know, like what was the point of them then if this was all about the pain, like using that to be stronger? Then was the point of them just to say like this is what she wants to keep alive but she can't have it herself? Maybe, I don't know. Like it was very out there and very confusing, and I don't mind things being more difficult to understand and harder concepts that aren't very like in your face. They don't have to beat you over the head with it. But at the same time, if you make it too confusing for your audience, then we're sitting here scratching our heads going, "What? What were you trying to say in all of this?" And again, why were they trapped in there to begin with if it wasn't the mind maze from the monk and his I don't even know what to call it. Was it disease maybe? If it wasn't that, then what was it? And on top of that, it kind of seemed like that's what the season was going for, as far as what I remembered from my past reviews. It seemed like it was going to be about stopping this plague of the mental disease that just causes people to go crazy. But now that the monk is dead, it feels like the disease is gone with him. So why? What's the point now? We see Lenny gets brought in at the end of it. I don't know. I can't exactly remember what went down between David, Farouk, and Lenny in the last couple episodes. So I don't really remember exactly what happened to her. Is she still with Farouk at this point, or is this just Lenny? Um, so I am kind of confused about, I guess, what the plot going forward is. And I feel like I'm kind of confused about what they're trying to say with a lot of this episode. So there's a lot of confusion going on here. Maybe it will make more sense as we go along. But as it stands, I don't know. It's not like I didn't like it. There's a lot of this show that I still really enjoy. I mean, the style of it, the music is it's very well done. Like the way it's shot and the way that everything works together, I enjoy watching it. It's just when I actually start to think about what's being said, and I think about the plot, and I think about the characters and their choices and all of that stuff, sometimes it does get a little convoluted, and there are some times when I'm just sort of sitting here going, okay, I hope that it gets explained later, because if not, then I have no idea what you're trying to say, and I might have to look it up later. But anyways, with all that being said, on to the next episode. See you there. And now, episode 5, chapter 13. I really hope this gets explained. The stuff with, like, Sid and all that happened last episode, I was kind of worried it wasn't going to get explained, and based on where the story's going now, still kind of feel that way. And again, some of it I can kind of have an idea of what they were going for, but I don't know for sure. I still don't know exactly what they're trying to show in that last episode. And there's a lot of things that, like, why were they trapped there in the first place? Why was Sid able to somehow create her own maze that she trapped David? I don't know. Anyways, this is definitely a lot more focused, and I can understand what's happening, but I have no idea how or why. So I hope this starts to get explained a little bit, because I get everything that happened. Like, a lot of this, I thought it was two different stories. I thought it was, they find Lenny. She is apparently now her own person. She used to just be a consciousness with inside Farouk, and now Farouk has set her free, and he somehow got her a body, and they're kind of asking that question. So I figured that was going to be important. And then they had the other story where you just see Farouk with Oliver, and they're doing some stuff in the desert, and kind of a little mysterious, like don't really know what's going on. And at first I thought these were two separate stories, and then at the end of it, finally you realize all of these scenes with Farouk actually had already happened, and it was showing us the build up to the big reveal. So I like how they set that up, and I understood all of that. But as far as the process, I'm gonna need some explaining on this, okay? Like, I get the idea that he, I guess, released Lenny's consciousness into this body that he created for Lenny, but so this device, right? All you need to do is just get like a piece of skin from a dead body, and then you can turn somebody else's body into that body, and when you do that, does that kill them? And even if they do that, then why, putting Lenny's consciousness, like, is Amy just gone now? Like, I don't know. I'm gonna need some explaining, and this may be something that device was already talked about previously, and I just don't remember it because it's been so long since I've watched the show. But I'm gonna need some explaining on what all just happened here. Like, it was a very well done build up, and the fact that it was, honestly, it took me a second. I didn't even remember his sister from the first season because it's been that long since I've watched it. But then, of course, as soon as he said your brother David, I'm like, oh shit, that's right. He had a sister, and this is her. Oh no. And so apparently he turned her into this body for Lenny, and now this is Lenny's body. And of course, David realizes this. And of course, the whole blue eyes thing, something that if people were watching this like consistently, they might have picked up on that. It's like, oh wait, his sister has blue eyes, and she's the only one that we haven't accounted for. That might have been something. And there might have been even some other hints and clues that I didn't pick up on just because I haven't watched this show in so long. But yeah, I'm definitely going to need some explaining on what this device does, how it turns people into other people, what Farouk's plan is. Like, I don't know if this was just meant to taunt David and kind of. I mean, I guess the idea could be that he wants to find his own body and then turn everybody into himself. Like that could be the plan, to turn everybody into himself and put his consciousness in all these people because he's powerful enough to do that. So that could be something that goes along with everything happening right now, what his ultimate goal is. And as far as Lenny, maybe this is just something he wanted to do to show David, here's the plan. This is what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do this for me. But I'm going to do this to your sister with Lenny just to taunt you a little bit and just to drive you a little insane. So that could be kind of why he did all of this. But I do hope that they explain a little bit more about what this device is, how it affects the person. Like, is Amy just dead now? Like, for sure? Like, this kills her and replaces her with Lenny? Or is this something where it just changes the physiology of the person's body and Farouk is the one that removed her mind from the body and put Lenny's mind in it? I do hope they go into a little bit more detail about that because right now it's kind of just up in the air. Like, don't really know for sure everything that happened. There's still a lot of gray area. And I do feel like they're either doing that intentionally or they're doing that in a way where, like, we're just supposed to know, no, Amy's dead, she's gone. Like, you can't come back from that. But I don't know for sure. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, overall, I mean, it was a good episode, good build up. I liked the intensity of that final scene too, just because, like, I don't know, it was sort of building. Like, I started to finally realize, I guess, what was going on as it started to happen. And when it started to hit me, everything that was going on, that's when everything sort of, like, the music and the camera just all paid off really well in that moment. So I thought they handled everything in this episode very well. But yeah, story wise, I'm gonna need more. There's been quite a bit this season that I'm trying to stay on top of it. I'm trying to understand, but some of it's just kind of out there, and I need to know a little bit more. And I hope they talk me through some of it so I'm not completely lost for the rest of the season. The other thing, kind of a little bit of a tidbit. It didn't really go anywhere, but there was a moment where Oliver and Farouk were driving in the car, and just at one point, like, he calls out Melanie's name, and it's like she heard him. And I don't know, like, I know Oliver, like, clearly he's not working for Farouk. It's not like he wants to work for him, but he's kind of trapped, and he has to do what he says, because, Farouk's controlling his body, and he has no other choice. But I'm kind of curious to find out, Oliver says that he thinks he's found his weakness. He says he thinks he found a way to stop him. I'm curious to find out how. I'm curious to see if he actually does have a way to stop him or if he's just a little too overconfident. Because I like the fact that he did give him, he said, can I have a hint? He gives him a little hint. What's 1 + 1? 2. Incorrect. I don't know. Maybe it's something like, what's 1 bullet plus 1 body? No more Farouk, or something like that. I don't know. But Yeah, with all being said though, I'm excited to see where the rest of the season goes. It feels like they're doing a very good job of building it up. Um, oh, the other thing that just kind of there was a little moment of it, not really sure where it's going to go, but we did see Tanami. He tries to look into Lenny's mind at one point, and it kind of gets reversed around on him, and then we see like the little creature that we saw at the beginning of the season crawl into his ear while he's sleeping. Um, so I don't know if somehow Farouk is just slowly infecting all of these people. Again, it's very obscure what they're trying to show with this because we did see this little bird creature earlier on this season. I don't really remember everything that we've seen with it, but now it's like it's affected autonomy, and we see him like he's basically strangling Lenny at one point. So it clearly affected him. The basket head lady, we saw like a peek under her mask, and it looked like she was the bird. So I don't know if that's the case. And then also later on, we hear Amy talking about dreaming that she was like a bunch of people, like these ladies with mustaches. I'm like, wait, that's what? Like, I don't know. I'm very confused about what some of that, if that's just supposed to be little tongue in cheek humor or if there's something more to that. But, anyways, with all that being said, on to the final of these 3 episodes. See you there. And finally, episode 6, chapter 14. Um, yep. This episode happened. I guess the point was to show like the different ways things could have gone, but why? And what was the point? You know, like I don't know. I kept waiting. I just kept watching and waiting. I'm like, all right, I have no idea what's going on. I get, they had that one scene where he was talking his crazy, like, I don't know, he was like crazy and he was weird looking. His teeth were all messed up. He had, his face was all like blotchy and stuff. And he was talking to the guy about like alternate timelines, and he was, doing the fry thing. He's like, and they branch and they branch and they branch. I was like, okay, so are we seeing like different alternate universe things right now? What is this going to lead to? Like what is this all leading towards? What is this going to show us? Did it show us anything? Because I'm watching and I'm like, okay, so how do any of these connect? Are they all their own separate thing? And in the end, what's the point of any of them? Because there were moments when we saw he was like homeless, he was living all by himself, and got more and more homeless, and he got more and more crazy, and he started killing people whenever they attack him, and then it ended with Carrie slicing him in half. And then there was the timeline where he was taking his pills and he was trying to live with Amy, and they were trying to work things out, and then it ended with he kills police officers and then he gets shot and then he dies. And then there was the timeline where he was working as a coffee boy and then decides to help this woman out who's like in charge of the company. He reads the guy's minds, tells her what's going on, and then he ends up becoming a billionaire because of it. And then he and Amy have a little bit of a dispute, and then he makes her nose bleed because she wants a house and he says no. That's where that ended. And then there was some other things happening. We saw him as a baby, we saw him as an old man being taken care of by Amy, and it led to we got to see Amy dropping him off at Clockworks, and then it leads up to the present. I I don't know. I truly don't get it, because if the point was like, oh well, in this one, he's not gonna die, but she has to, like she had to sacrifice herself for him to actually live, because in all the other timelines he didn't. If that were the case, then I'd be like, oh, okay, that's an interesting way to show it. But in the homeless one, was Amy still alive? In the old man one, Amy was still there taking care of him. And then in the businessman one, like, yeah, he and Amy were kind of at odds with each other. Like, he clearly just didn't give a crap about anybody. Honestly, he looked a little bit like Benedict Cumberbatch in that scene. I'm not gonna lie. It's just something about the way his hair was and his face. Like, it reminded me of Benedict Cumberbatch in Star Trek. When he was playing Khan. Um, but yeah, like, none of these really had a point in the end. And then there was also, like, he was working in some desk job down by a bunch of folders, and then one point a rat comes out and starts singing to him, and then another point he takes out some whiteout and sniffs it. That's all that happened there. I don't know. Like, I really like this show. I really do. But God, this episode was dumb. Like, I don't understand. If they were trying to make a point with all of this, clearly I've missed it. And I feel like they were trying to make some sort of point, but I don't know. Like, the whole thing at the end, whenever we saw Farouk talking to, I think this was something he said to Oliver, maybe? I don't know. But we hear him saying, like, you have the power to make your will your own, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe that's the case. I'm dumb, guys. I don't get whatever symbolism this was trying to show. Like, I might actually look up and see exactly what this episode was supposed to be, just to see if, like, looking in hindsight, I can say, oh, okay, now I see what they were trying to do. Because honestly, it just seemed like a bunch of random alternate stories that David could have gone through, and none of them had a point. And I don't know. I felt like when I'm watching, I'm expecting there to be some major point at the end of all of this, like, or maybe even in his mind right now in the present, in our story that we're watching, he's running through all these different possibilities that could have happened that would have kept Amy alive. Because again, still not entirely sure if she's for sure dead. If this device that turned her into Lenny, does that kill her? Still don't really know. We've still not really talked about it. So I'm kind of sitting here wondering, like, is he imagining what could have been, keeping her alive? But again, there's that one ending where he was homeless and he just gets sliced in half. We didn't see Amy at all. Like, is she alive in that ending? I don't know. So, again, just, it happened. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of threw me off. I'm just like, what is the point of all of this? There was no point to it, it seems like. So I'm a little frustrated, just because I've been enjoying the season so far, and it feels like they spent this whole episode just coming up with other, like, hey, what other stories can we do? Let's have him. He and Amy are trying to make it work where he's taking pills, but he's very clearly not really. It's not working very well. And let's have this other one where he uses his powers to help this woman, but then he becomes rich and he becomes powerful, and so he thinks of himself as a god. And then let's have another one where he's just homeless and he's constantly getting beaten up, but then all of a sudden he's using his powers to kill people, and I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, not a great episode in my opinion, just very pointless, unless I might look it up and find out what the point of all of it was. Maybe even next episode they'll be like, oh yeah, this is why all that happened, this is why we showed you all of that. But as it stands right now, I'm just kind of sitting here scratching my head going, what are you guys trying to do with this? Why did you waste an episode on this? Because it didn't do anything. It didn't affect anything, at least as far as I can tell. So anyways, with all that being said, that's it for these 3 episodes. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these episodes? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe. Future Legion reviews. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.